Good morning. I'm the Reverend Rachael Hayes, minister of the Unitarian Universalist Society of Amherst, joining you from our beautiful sanctuary again. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old, visitors, newcomers, and long-timers. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Today, we're talking about fear. I light our chalice and call us to worship with these words from the Reverend Rachael Hayes. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? In these days, we find ourselves too often stuck with these questions on repeat. What's going to happen? Will everything be okay? What can I do? We grasp at signs and markers, articles of news and analysis, Facebook memes and forwarded emails, as if the new zodiac, capable of forecasting all that life may yet bring our way. As if we could prepare, as if life had ever made any promises of making sense or turning out the way we thought, as if we are not also actors in this still unfolding story. For this hour, we gather to surrender to the mystery, to release ourselves from the needing to know, the yearning to have it all already figured out, and also the burden of believing we either have all the control or none. Here in our song and our silence, we make space for a new breath, a new healing, a new possibility to take root. That is courage. Forged in the fire of our coming together and felt in the spirit that comes alive in this act of faith, that we believe still a new world is possible, that we are creating it already, here and now. Come, let us worship together. I light the chalice on our altar, and I invite you to light a chalice, candle, or lamp where you are too. This poem is called Fear. It was written by Tema Oken. Fear arrives, a baby bird in the belly, a soft spark invited by breathing, a holy dark whispering, hungry. I think and think, I turn and twist this way, that way. I can't push it, I can't pull it off. Not now, not forever. The trick is to lean, to listen for breathing, shelter it safe, drop down deep into its soft howl. This fear begets wonder, a hello, an aperture to a hunt stripped clean. It calls a warning, a calling, a curling in. It carries a candle. It strips skin with a smile, and I know I must, even when I can't, let it be ordinary. Let it be beautiful. Like a pebble nestled in the stream is ordinary, is beautiful. It is, after all, a miracle, this knowing where I can, where I must go. Tema Okun, who wrote the poem I just read, is known for her work with Kenneth Jones on the characteristics of white supremacy culture. There's a famous In Racial Justice Work article, originally published in 1999, that lists some of the characteristics of white supremacy culture and antidotes to them. She says on her beautiful brand new website, whitesupremacyculture.info, that this is one way of understanding white supremacy culture, not the way. But I find it to be a pretty helpful way, not because it's perfect, but because it's a start. It puts words to something I was trained for most of my life by no one in particular, not to notice or speak out loud. All of us, those who are white and those who are not, have to live in this culture of white supremacy, and we all deserve liberation from it. This is not simply the white supremacy of separatist militias, the Ku Klux Klan, the Unite the Right rally, people who commit racist hate crimes, or those we would identify as white supremacists. I'm also talking about the white supremacy of redlining, racist mascots and flags, of demonizing food assistance programs. I'm talking about the white supremacy of always done it this way. I'm talking about the white supremacy of property tax funded education. I'm talking about working the loopholes, getting your friend's kid an internship, and the grim reality of who can afford to even take an internship in the hopes of making the connections or building the resume. The systems and structures that keep power concentrated among white people, the status quo, and how the status quo perpetuates itself. The first characteristic of white supremacy we'll talk about, and we'll be talking about them all year, is fear. I don't mean fear of spiders or fear of heights. I mean specifically fear of change, fear of speaking up, fear of losing control or power, fear of not belonging. White supremacy has been used since the invention of whiteness to pit people against one another, to create in-groups and out-groups to control everyone. White supremacy, or even white identity, was not really an issue in this way that we think of it now on this continent until the wealthy Europeans here needed a way to prevent poor Europeans from realizing they had more in common with enslaved Africans and dispossessed Native people. This newly defined white group got access to more rights, slightly better treatment. Suddenly, economic class and nationality were secondary to white identity. White was the in-group. White was belonging. Hey, maybe you didn't have enough to eat, but at least you're white, and your children, if you have them with another white person, will be white too. A whole identity and social location is based on the preservation of this white identity. Over time, more and more groups of people get folded into this idea of whiteness. More European nationalities get welcomed into whiteness as their numbers and power grow. And if someone can be brought in, it stands to reason that someone might be cast out, not based on nationality, but by association or affiliation with those who are not white. By questioning what this whiteness means, by going back to the beginning and saying, hey, I think I have more in common with the people I work alongside than the ones who own the land. So still, using government welfare programs is just one thing that is raced as Black, even though white people are more likely to use government assistance. And in the racial hierarchy, this deters everyone from accessing these welfare programs. Fear is a tool of control in white supremacy culture. Fear that we are not enough. Fear that we don't belong. And this fear disconnects us from each other, from our own feelings, from the earth, from our own creativity and capacity to make meaning for ourselves. It strips us of our agency and wholeness. It whispers in the night. What will people say? You might make a fool of yourself. You don't deserve. Who do you think you are? Why didn't you do more? Let's interrupt those whispers. This is why I say that we are building a counterculture, because we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of all people, because everyone deserves compassion and agency and a voice in what happens to them, because we're interconnected, because we yearn to be whole, no longer disconnected from one another. White supremacy in its many, many forms is still among us. UMass Amherst this month has reported verbal harassment and hate speech directed at Black student organizations. This is not way back when in the civil rights movement. This is not other places. This is right here in Amherst because it's everywhere. And here is no exception. There's progress with the town reparations process, with the community safety working group. There's been some really powerful story sharing and community building on the town common, where most especially Black and Asian people have given testimony of the oppression they face in Massachusetts today, in a town that holds a monument to the genocide of Native people in its very name. Are we so surprised? Our congregation adopted an 8th principle last June, in addition to the 7 held by all Unitarian Universalist congregations. I don't have the exact numbers, but approximately a 10th of UU congregations have voted on the 8th principle to date. It calls us to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community, by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions. It's a big call. How might fear be holding us back from engaging this work wholeheartedly? We voted overwhelmingly to adopt this principle. Where are we being called to open up, to look at our practices from the perspective of someone who's not sure whether they belong? Furthermore, how do we create belonging that's not dependent on creating or clinging to an in-group that rules while everybody else has to like it or leave? What does accountability not based on fear look like? What if we come to wholeness not from a place of fault, but from a place of growing? What if we loosen our grip on fear and find the joy that never had room to move around? Audre Lorde puts it this way: next time, ask, what's the worst that will happen? Then push yourself a little further than you dare. Once you start to speak, people will yell at you. They will interrupt you, put you down, and suggest it's personal. And the world won't end. And the speaking will get easier and easier. And you will find you have fallen in love with your own vision, which you may never have realized you had. And at last, you'll know with surpassing certainty that only one thing is more frightening than speaking your truth, and that is not speaking. The antidote to fear is naming it. So I dare you, name your fears in the moment when you can, before you act on them. But even after the fact, to say, wow, I was really afraid. I was afraid X would happen. The more practices you can cultivate to know and name your fear in real time, the more resistance you will have to being controlled by your fear. So, meditation, yes. Journaling, yes. Art, yes. Singing, dancing, yes. To have deep and mutually vulnerable relationships. To thank the earth for holding you and caring for you. To know yourself, watch yourself, love yourself without judging yourself. Because you do belong to your own precious and wonderful self. Because you are worthy of love. And you are loved in this congregation. Because you have so much to give into the healing of the world. Beloveds, we can do this hard thing. We can hold our fears gently and name them and not be ruled by them. May it be so. I invite you to join me in saying the words to extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. I send you forth with the words of the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Go in peace.